Hello, everybody. Welcome back into another episode of The Cycle. I'm your host, Mike Maher. I am joined once again by Kelly Kirby. And Kelly, how are you doing today?
I am actually doing fairly decent, I think, for the most part. Sometimes that's a tricky question, but how are you?
I've been better. You know, as we talked before the show, I have a son who recently started kindergarten, and it is going below average, I would say, so far. So hopefully that takes a turn, and for the better. But for this week, we actually have 4 bases, no t-ball, no cricket. We're doing all 4 bases for rounding the bases, which for anyone not familiar with the show, which by this point in the season you probably are. But we have the first segment we call rounding the bases, where we just hit topics that we want to talk about, any news, notes, and injuries. And so let's jump right in. And so last week we went very heavy on pitchers. And so this week I'm going to start with pitchers because why not? And also it just seems like a while ago there weren't a ton of pitchers to really focus on or talk about. And now there are a ton, especially with all the young pitchers coming up. And not just coming up, but all of them apparently pitching well. And so the big news for this week is that the Mets are calling up Jonah Tong, and I guess the Nolan McLean call-up has gone so well, they were like, let's just call up the rest of our top prospects. And so McLean has been very good since being called up. Jonah Tong is a more, I don't want to say heralded prospect, but he's a bigger name in the prospect world. He's the Mets' number 4 overall prospect, and he's the number 44 overall prospect according to MLB Pipeline. And so a lot of people are very excited. He has very exciting stuff. If I just mention his minor league numbers, he's only made 2 starts in AAA, but in AA, 162 strikeouts and 102 innings with a 1.59 ERA. And then he made 2 starts in AAA, allowed 0 runs, and struck out 17 batters in 11 2/3 innings. And the Mets decided that is good enough to call him up. And the total numbers across all of his starts in the minors this year, combining AA and AAA, 179 strikeouts and 113 2/3 innings, 1.43 ERA, 1.67 FIP, 2.16 xFIP. So it all seems pretty earned. 10 wins, not that that really matters. His whip also is really important for a young pitcher, below 1, 0.92 whip. And so we can kind of talk about Jonah Tong and Nolan McLean together, because Nolan McLean has made 3 starts since being called up, and looks really good. I don't think he's going to continue to have a 0.89 ERA the rest of the way, but so far so good. 3 starts, 20 and 1/3 innings, 21 strikeouts, 0.89 ERA, 0.69 whip. I don't think you can ask for anything better than that. And so Nolan McLean has gone very well. Do you have any thoughts on Jonah Tong and being called up by the Mets and his fantasy value? And he is starting tomorrow. Actually, by the time you listen to it, it'll probably be yesterday, because we are recording Thursday. He's pitching on Friday. So hopefully that start goes well, because we're going to talk about him right here. And I'll stop talking now and toss it to you.
I mean, maybe people will telepathically understand that we're supporting him on Thursday, so they should pick him up, before they're listening to this. But yeah, I'm all in, I guess. Like the way that it's gone with McLean, the way the Marlins are currently playing, and lacking certain, power hitters, I'm good. I think you throw him out there and see what he does, especially if he's at home. So yeah, I have no problem picking him up.
Yeah, the only minor concern is that it was such a small sample size in AAA. But as we've talked about a lot on the show this year, the jump from the minors to the majors right now is enormous for batters, the difference. But for pitchers, it seems to go a lot better. And there isn't this, obviously the major leagues are much better, but the gap between pitching well at the minor, AAA and AA and the majors is not the same as the hitters facing that kind of pitching, if that makes sense. We're seeing all these young hitters come up and struggle just because the quality of pitching in the majors is so much higher. Whereas for pitchers, it doesn't seem like the gap is that big. So we're seeing a lot of young pitchers come up and succeed right away. So those are 2 young pitchers we're really excited about, and we'll talk a little bit about more of them when we talk waivers, but also there are just so many young pitchers. We talked, if you want to hear more about all the young pitchers coming up, listen to last week's episode, because we spent a lot of time talking about them. But basically any pitcher under 25, pick them up right now, because they're good. A couple older pitchers. Yeah, exactly. Anyone under 25 is great. A couple of older pitchers who returned. We also talked about these 2 briefly last week, but when we talked about them, they hadn't pitched yet. They hadn't returned from the lengthy IL stints yet. And since then, they have. And they both looked really good. Shane Bieber, the Biebs, and Kyle Bradish both returned. Both looked really good. The Biebs had 6 innings, 0 earned runs, 9 strikeouts. And Kyle Bradish, 6 innings, 10 strikeouts. And so it seems like, I don't know if they're necessarily must start rest of season, but maybe they are. So what's your level of trust and interest in, these two veterans rest of season?
I trust Bieber more. I'll say that. Like, and again, I just like his situation better, all around. And I feel like he has more win equity. I feel like he has just better support, better defense. Like, I, I think, I think you can trust him. Bradish is like the guy that I love and I want to trust. Um, he's the one that I did pick him up in my home league where I'm trying to make a push for the playoffs. I am, because I like what like his strikeout upside. And so, yeah, I am really good with both of them. Bradish just might be more available in your league, so like I wouldn't feel bad about picking up him at that rate.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say that's probably the case. The other thing that concerns me, not that, I mean, I guess it does concern me about Bradish, is that we haven't seen him in 2025 until now. In 2024, we only got 39 and a third innings at him. They were very, very good innings, 2.75 ERA and 53 strikeouts. And then the last full season we got out of him was 2023, also very good. So it's been a little bit, it's been a little while since we've gotten a full good season out of him, but also it's about to be September. We don't need a good full season out of him. We need a good month out of him. And so
Mm-hmm.
as long as he can come back, he's obviously, you wish he was pitching for a better team. But not having Kyle Bradish is one of the reasons the Orioles were not good this year, because they very clearly needed pitching going into the season, didn't get any, and shockingly, it didn't go well for them. I would
I mean,
say, what did I want to
who
ask
could see
you?
that coming if you just,
Yeah.
no pitching, it just doesn't work out well in the majors. So good job.
Would you try? Let's say because a lot of fantasy managers are either in their playoffs or heading into their playoffs very soon. Are you
Mhm.
comfortable starting either or both of these in a head-to-head, categories or points matchup in the playoffs?
Oh yeah, without any question.
Okay, assuming you don't have Nolan McLean already, clogging up your.
Right. Well, and I mean, I guess it depends like who they're playing this week. I like Bradish as a streamer, but I would maybe keep an eye on it. Like they're going to Yankee Stadium or even like Wrigley at this point. I would maybe consider whether or not I wanted to actually pitch him at that point.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, moving on to second base. In a fun little segment I'm calling Trust or Bust. And just made that up. Very clever.
Hmm.
And what I want to do is something we've talked about, the last few weeks as we get towards the end of the season. We're down in the home stretch. Full season sample sizes don't matter as much anymore. And when we're talking about waivers, streamers, players to pick up, we're talking about recent sample sizes, especially when you're talking about that last spot on your roster, those fringe spots on your roster, because this is not the time to stash people. This is the time to get people in your lineup. And if someone's hot, pick them up and start them. And if if they cool down, drop them and pick up whoever's hot. And so what I did was I went to the FantasyPros MLB Fantasy Baseball Stats page. And what I like to do is filter by VBR, which is the default filter, which is essentially fantasy value. Who's been the most valuable? And I filtered by the last 15 days. For a couple of these pitchers, I expanded it to 30 days because obviously pitchers, you want a little bit bigger of a sample size. But for hitters, I focus on 15 days. And I want to toss some of these names to you and some of the most valuable fantasy baseball hitters over the last 15 days. And I'll ask you trust or bust rest of season. And so, do you want me to talk to you one at a time, or just go through the list and we'll hit them as we go?
I think we can do one at a time, and I can answer pretty quickly.
Okay, let's do it.
So,
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 names, so we'll move pretty quickly here. But there's not going to be a lot to talk about them anyway. So the hottest hitter in baseball over the last 15 days is Jurickson Profar, surprisingly. And over those 15 days, 56 at bats, 6 home runs, batting .357 with 4 stolen bases and 6 home runs, an OPS of 1.203, and trust or bust rest of season. The best hitter in baseball, Jurickson Profar.
yeah, I'm not trusting it. I think this is his peak. So I would
Wow.
either you have him, but I wouldn't go in now. I think he's going to drop off a cliff sometime fairly soon. So
Are you
unless
willing to
he's
stream
back,
him at all?
unless he's back on the stuff, in which case, who knows.
Oh,
But
shots
would
fired.
I stream him, yeah. I mean, I suppose like if I needed a hitter, and he had a really good matchup for like a weekend or something, I think I could do it. But in terms of trusting that this level of production in any way is going to continue, no.
Okay. Would you start him this week in head to head if you had to? I mean, I guess that's a loaded
I,
question. Like if you had to, I guess it would depend on the alternatives. What if you had? I'll toss some names at you: Jurickson Profar or Lourdes Gurriel.
yeah, I would take Profar, I think. But I don't know their matchups, but I'll just go off the top of my head. I would take Profar.
Yeah, I'm mostly just looking at the value anyway, or recent value. I guess that's not really fair to ask you. All right, let's go to the next name. Geraldo, not Geraldo, Geraldo Perdomo, who's third in VBR. And to give you an idea of who's second, it's Jurickson Profar 1, Francisco Lindor is second, and Geraldo Perdomo is third, just as everyone expected. Over the last 15 days, 51 at-bats, batting .353, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, and a 1.104 OPS. And more so than just the last 15 days, he's having a pretty ridiculous season overall, which I just keep waiting for it to stop. Numbers look incredible. Underlying data looks shockingly legit. And so, what say you, Geraldo Perdomo?
I would absolutely. I'm trusting him, and I'm actually mad at myself because a number of people I think offered me trades, like offered him to me a couple of times, and I'm sure they were doing it thinking he was going to drop off. But yeah, like you said, the numbers are legit, so I just don't see any reason. I mean, he may not be third in VBR for the rest of the year, but he's certainly. There's nothing that suggests he's going to fall off a cliff. So without any question, I trust him.
Yeah, the only thing for him talking season long now and not just last 15 days, he doesn't hit the ball incredibly hard. Um, barrel rate's pretty low, hard hit percentage is pretty low, bat speed is pretty low. But everything else, like squared up percentage, chase percentage, whiff percentage, K percentage, walk percentage, 94 percentile or better. And his ex WOBA 80, ex batting average 80th percentile. So pretty incredible numbers across the board there. Not a ton of power, but 15 home runs. And, if you can get for the season now, he's batting .293, 15 home runs, 23 stolen bases. Pretty incredible numbers considering he was either drafted very late in your league or not drafted at all. So if you picked him up off the waiver wire, you've probably just been riding him ever since. And so, as I say in the playoffs, dance with who brung you. And so if you've been riding Geraldo Perdomo this long, you might as well keep going because whatever he's doing is working.
I really enjoy that you just did the dance with who brung you on the playoffs after like last week or the week before, where we were like, dump your girlfriend before prom. Like, it's it kind of depends on the player, I think. But the 23 stolen bases for him are also like that's just a plus. But I like in a head-to-head league, if it's batting average in particular, I love people who bat .290. Like, let them help carry the power hitters. So
yeah. Well, that the kind of like dance with who brung you versus dump your girlfriend is, if things have been going great, just keep riding it. If you've been in a terrible relationship with 2 months, let's get out of it and find someone new. And so it's more about just it's the time to continue ride. If it's going great, keep it going. If it's not, it's time to move on. We need something good for September. And as much as Geraldo Perdomo was definitely one of my sell highs for probably 3 months, I feel like every week when we were writing our buy low, sell high segment, I was like, should I just rate Geraldo Perdomo again? Because I don't understand what's happening here. But we're heading into September, still going well, so you might as well trust him now. What about, this is a very interesting one, Jakob Marsee, 10th in VBR. He's been pretty incredible since getting called up, but over the last 15 days especially, 56 at-bats, batting .339 with 3 home runs, 18 RBI, 3 stolen bases, an OPS of 1.017. What say you? Trust or bust, rest of season, Jakob Marsee, the GOAT.
I'm well, yeah, and I'm glad the words rhyme. Sorry, I don't mean this to like stutter on that. But I wouldn't call him a bust, but I'm not trusting him. Like his slugging.
Is it because he spells Jacob with a K? Is that why you don't trust him?
No, I actually have a friend who spells Jacob with a K, so I'm gonna let that ride. But I won't kick him out for that. What I do not like is that his X slug is over 100 points lower than what he's currently slugging, and now whether there's time for that to correct in the next month, I don't know. He could stay this hot, but I'm not trusting that he will. So I think the first sign of a slump, I would get out.
See, for me, I don't care about the slugging because that's not why I want him anyway. I want the steals. And
Hmm.
he has 8 stolen bases in 26 games, 4 home runs. Those 4 home runs to me are toppings on my ice cream sundae. I don't care about those 4 home runs. Those are great. I care about the stolen bases. And so far, the batting average is going great as well. I don't know that that's necessarily going to continue because he hasn't necessarily been a high batting average guy throughout his career in the minor leagues. High on base percentage, he walks at a pretty incredible clip, which is great if for guys who steal bases. If you can, the hardest thing about a lot of young players stealing bases is getting on base in the first place. And so in the minors, he was walking at over a 15% clip. In the majors so far, over 10%. His strikeout rate is 21%, 21.6%. That's fine. His batting 356. Expected batting average 322. Very small sample sizes. But for me, he's outperforming what we're expecting right now. But also in 2024, 51 stolen bases in the minors. And in 2025, in 98 games, 47 stolen bases. So for me, I want those steals. And if he's giving me steals and not hurting me elsewhere, I'll trust you. I don't know a great way to end that sentence, but I'll trust you.
I mean, that makes sense. And if that's what you're looking for there, yeah, absolutely. But I feel like most people, or at least in most of the leagues I'm in, he's either rostered or like most of them he's rostered.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of that question of if you already have him, then yeah, write it out. I would just be careful of a slump where it looks like he kind of like the pitchers start to adjust to him. And that could get kind of ugly in the middle of the playoffs.
Yeah, shockingly low roster percentage, although it's being dragged down by ESPN. So Yahoo 55% rostered, so very possibly available on Yahoo unless some of those are inactive leagues. ESPN 28%, but ESPN is a much shallower format, so those numbers are always going to be lower. But especially in something like head to head, if you just kind of want to like. Sometimes in the playoffs, I just kind of look for if it's head to head categories. If I'm just trying to steal a category, you
Mhm.
know, if I can sneak someone like Jakob Marsee in there and steals, not to
Mhm.
double up on the words, but he's someone I'm definitely interested in. What about Mark Vientos, 12th in VBR? Over the last 15 days, he's been hot, batting 357 with 6 home runs, 17 RBIs, 0 stolen bases. You're not going to get stolen bases from him. A 1.285 OPS. Are you trusting or busting Mark Vientos rest of season?
I am not a Mark Vientos person. I've never been a Mark Vientos person, so I'm not going to trust, and I certainly don't roster him anywhere. Uh, yeah, there's just not a lot there that I'm super excited about to like have on my team for the playoffs. And again, I don't know, in the playoffs, I just really start looking at kind of that average, like the whole get on base thing, and I don't trust his 294 on base percentage is kind of ugly for the year. So I'm going to let him stay on the waivers.
Yeah, I struggle with this one because I felt like last year I really enjoyed the Mark Vientos experience because I picked him up on waivers and he just stayed in my lineup the rest of the season because I was like, this is great. Third base is shallow. This has solved my third base problem. I'm just gonna ride Mark Vientos. This season hasn't been as good. He got off to a very slow start. Kind of lost some playing time, spent some time, missed some time, and it hasn't been great. But in the first half, he batted 223 in August. Only 17 games, so pretty much the same 15 game sample size we already talked about. 6 home runs, batting 297. And in the second half overall, batting 300 in 27 games, 100 at bats. So intriguing, but I also lean not trusting it. But I will also say third base is a disaster this season. And
Hmm.
so if you find a third baseman with a pulse, you might as well ride it. So if you need a third baseman in the short term, absolutely trust Mark Vientos. Just watch it every day because every day you're going to think about dropping him. And if he shows signs of cooling off, then drop him. But if you're like me and you've been starting Ryan McMahon at third base for a lot of the season, then Mark Vientos is looking pretty attractive right now.
Hmm. Yeah, that I can definitely support that.
How about, and we'll move on to pitchers here. This has been a very intriguing name. He's not someone we talked about last week, but he's a very intriguing young pitcher. Luis Morales, starter for the A's. 3 straight strong starts, 18 innings pitched, 18 strikeouts, only 2 earned run totals. What's your level of interest in trust or bust Luis Morales?
Yeah, I mean, I trust him for now. I And this is another one of those like kind of streaming options. I'm not sure if I want to start him in Sacramento all that often, just because I'm afraid of that ballpark. But he's been great both on and at home and on the road. So yeah, right now let's take it. His pitchers are a little different, I think, in terms of like his xERA is awful. So there's always a chance he can get lit up. But there's always a chance for all of them, right? So I like his numbers. I like his strikeout rate. I like kind of everything he's doing. So, but I also have I have a weird thing where I seem to like athletics players better than other players, and I don't know why. But I'm willing to take him.
Yeah, he's very intriguing. Let me pull up his minor league numbers here because I was looking at them earlier today. And in the minors this season across AA and AAA, so combining them, 107 strikeouts and 89 and a third innings pitched, 3.73 ERA, not ideal for a minor league ERA, but also not terrible. And like you said, one for this season in the majors, 1.19 ERA, but FIP 308, xFIP 426, Sierra 432, xERA 464. So all four expected ERA numbers significantly higher than the 1.19 Mirage we're seeing now, but also a 0.97 WHIP, which is even lower than what he was doing in the minors. But for me, very intriguing. It's difficult to trust him, especially in head-to-head. I would be much more willing to trust him in Roto and just be like, hey, give me some innings and some strikeouts. And, at this point in the season, if you have one bad start, it's not going to kill me because I have several months of, pitching kind of backing it up. Whereas in head-to-head, it can kind of sink a week if he destroys you. So I would lean more Roto than head-to-head, but also very intriguing if you need innings and strikeouts. This is a less exciting name. No offense to him and his family, but someone I've been intrigued by for years, but have also just like my level of intrigue has led to disappointment for years. Brady Singer. I expanded his stats to the last 30 days. Let me change my filter and bring him up. And I'll filibuster here while I search for his name. So over the last 30 days for pitchers, he is 18th in VBR. And with that comes 31 strikeouts over 27 and 2/3 innings, a 1.95 ERA, 1.05 WHIP, and pretty intriguing over a larger sample size. Obviously, 27 and 2/3 innings, not a large sample size for a pitcher, but I had to expand to 30 days because, as we already mentioned, 2 weeks for a pitcher could be like 2 or 3 starts. Any interest? I assume you're going to lean bust on this one, but what's your level of interest on Brady Singer, someone who's fascinated me for a long time?
I've also been fascinated by him, and not just because he reminds me of Bronson Arroyo so much that sometimes I like get them confused in my head. I'm like, is this the one with the giant leg kick? And it's not. And Bronson Arroyo was played like 20 years ago. But anyway, Singer
Famously
for me.
punched by A-Rod.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I'm sure it's just that he plays for the Reds too. But to answer your question, no, I'm not a big Brady Singer person, and I really never have been, except for I think 1 year in Kansas City. I believed in him, and he let me down, so that might be why. But again, streaming, if there's a decent matchup that you like, he's never been a big enough strike. I feel like he's never been a big enough strikeout guy to counter the walks that he can give up on one game. So it's like that. I feel like you're just kind of playing roulette with the whip, and maybe you'll get some strikeouts. So yeah, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. We've seen flashes from him in the past, and I like the idea of him going to Cincinnati. But like you kind of mentioned, he's less than a strikeout per inning, and the rest of his numbers aren't good enough to counteract not getting those strikeouts. And the downside is lower than the upside. I guess I would say. But on the season, 4.06 ERA, FIP is 3.84, so slightly lower, and xFIP, Sierra, and xERA are all 4.23 or 4.22, so almost exact. But that also comes with a 1.27 WHIP and a career 1.32 WHIP, so he's not giving you a great WHIP either. And yeah, I think you said it right. This is matchup streaming based, and it has to be a good matchup for me to trust him, especially if it's head-to-head playoffs, which I'm kind of focusing on a little bit more this time of year because throughout the season, head-to-head, you can make up some ground, but now in the playoffs, it's do or die. And so I do want to cater a little bit to our head-to-head followers and listeners and readers, users, subscribers, and just continue to mention that because they are hyper focused on their matchup this week. Whereas Roto
Right.
is still important too, but the stakes are a little bit lower in Roto because you still have time. And this is the name I've been mentioning on and off for the last several weeks, Emmet Sheehan. And let me pull up his numbers. I already have filtered by the last 30 days, so I don't have to filibuster. 34th in VBR. And over over 26 and 2/3 innings over that span, 3.04 ERA, 33 strikeouts, 3-1 record, 1.10 WHIP, and very low roster percentage. And now starting for the Dodgers. The one caveat is that the Dodgers have moved to a 6-man rotation with Ohtani now pitching, and so you're not going to get a ton of volume in terms of like you're probably not going to get a 2-start week out of Emmet Sheehan if you roster him. But he's been good. He's been someone who's intrigued me for a long time on what is supposed to be a good team, but sometimes they aren't. What's your level of interest or trust or bust Emmet Sheehan rest of season?
Yeah, I trust him. I've always liked him as well. It's kind of like I don't know if it's a Dodger thing or just that he has seemed steady. I remember like times I've started him or streamed him that it's gone well for me. I do like his strikeout numbers. I feel like they're pretty consistent when in the majors anyway. I mean, not I guess I'm just looking at his minor league numbers. It's not the 45.6% strikeout rate that he has, but I'll take the 26% strikeout rate. And yeah, the Dodgers should be good. And so, again, that weird win equity, if we're talking about whether head to head, I guess, or Roto, I mean, he could just give you a little bit of a boost, but volume isn't going to be there.
Yeah, and I would put him in the same category of these other really intriguing young pitchers we've been talking about over the last 2 weeks. Nolan, McLean, Jonah, Tong. I would put him above someone like Parker Messick, above Bubba Chandler, just because Bubba Chandler's role is like bulk relief right now. Although I think I've seen some things that he could move to the rotation. I think he got a save the other day, like a 4-inning save. I'll have to look up if that's correct. But I'm pretty sure he got a save the other day, which yeah. I mean, don't pick him up for saves, but that's a fun little boost if you had him in your lineup. Like we talked about him maybe getting wins as a bulk reliever. Maybe he'll get a save. He did get a save. And so far in the majors, 8 innings, no earned runs, and 6 strikeouts. So maybe they'll move him to the starting rotation.
We'll look at that xERA. He's given up no runs, and his xERA is 4.79.
Yeah, this is one of those, we talked about it earlier in the season. This is one of those small sample size things I enjoy where all the expected numbers are wildly different, where ERA is 0, FIP is 2.75, xFIP 4.28, SIERA 3.53, and xERA 4.79. So none of them like even within a run of each other or barely within a run of each other. So pretty fun.
No, I think I just like once a show to be like, let's play the small sample size number game because it's just fun. But yeah don't pick him up for saves. I don't actually, I don't know what you do with him at this point.
I think he's deeper league, or if you have deep roster, you stash. But and just pay attention to the news because if he moves to the starting rotation, he's more intriguing. But also he was like having a weird year in the minors where he was like, he was really good and then he was kind of like not good for a pretty long stretch, and I was called up and he's better.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where I kind of fall with him, where I'm like, even if they put him in the starting rotation, I don't know how much interest I have right now. So like, if it's not a keeper league, if it's not like, I think at this point, I'm willing to let somebody else ride that train. And then obviously like looking at next year, that's a whole different game. But no, for me, there's really nothing they can do with him that I'm going to be like, I'm going to go get him and pick him up. So.
All right, moving on. Let's go to third base. Very clever that we are going to talk about Rafael Devers at third base. A third baseman on third base. What are the chances? And he's coming off a monster game. By the time you're listening to this, it will have been a few days since his monster game, unless he has more monster games in between. But yesterday meaning Wednesday night, because we are recording on Thursday, as we normally do. We record on Thursday to get it out by Friday evening, so you have this for the weekend. And yesterday, 4 for 5, 2 home runs, a double, 4 runs, 5 RBI. And as I told you before the show, not a betting show, but it is hilarious that, in kind of, I bet on his under hits, runs, and RBIs yesterday, under 1.5. and he flew over with 13. And so I just missed that bet. But like you said, if you're gonna miss on a bet, you might as well miss hilariously. And so, losing by 11.5 is pretty hilarious. And I don't know what to make of Rafael Devers. He's had kind of a weird season since going to. I have his splits pulled up. Let me pull that back up. Since going to San Francisco in the Red Sox trade, which we don't have to talk about the Red Sox having one of the best records in baseball since getting rid of Rafael Devers. That's relevant for fantasy, but just to kind of get that in there and talk about it. But in the 73 games before being traded, so when he was with the Red Sox, batted .272 with 15 home runs and 58 RBI, 16.8 walk percentage, strikeout percentage 22.8. He kind of got off to a weird start. There was questions about his shoulders, which there kind of always seem to be, and then was very disgruntled. Didn't want to play first base. Now apparently he's willing to play first base, but more valuable as a third baseman in fantasy anyway. And so, but since the trade, he's batting .240, so much lower batting average, and 12 home runs, including the 2 from yesterday, 31 RBI. Walk rate is slightly lower, so down from 16.8% to 13.6%. And strikeout rate is much higher, 29.1%, which it was 22.8 before the trade, and for his career, 21.7. And so a significantly higher strikeout rate. And I guess, if you have Devers, you're starting him rest of the season, especially because, as we talked about, third base is a just a desert out there. But he's finally doing a little bit better, I would think. You can make the argument it's a very interesting move for ballparks for him. We talked about this at the time of the trade. Fenway Park is a good park for hitters, not necessarily a great park for home runs, which is kind of a misconception when you think about Fenway Park. Everyone thinks about a lot of home runs. It actually takes a lot of home runs away. But the ballpark he moved to is not any better, and so I think that's not going to be a whole change for him. But I don't know. I guess the biggest question is what do we do with him next season? 2026. Where does he go in drafts? Where do we rank him in third base? I don't even know.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy, and I have him in our league, our Roto League, and he obviously was just a massive disappointment, but it was that same feeling of it's Rafael Devers, so what do I do with him? And in our league, there's an award for winning the second half of the season, which I am pushing for, and all of my players are like, oh, I suppose we can try something like hitting now, and I'm like, oh, magic, welcome to the world. But Devers in August has been, he's been kind of more Devers, right? 8 home runs, 273 average. And then, but I'm looking at his stats for the year, and I'm like, well, those are just ridiculously kind of in line with what he normally does.
Yep.
And I think that's his thing. And so when we talk about him going into next year, I can already tell that you and I are going to fight about it a little, because I'm just going to be like, dude, the overall numbers, yeah, because I also know that Boston is not only is it not a great home run park, it's particularly not good for lefties, which is also a giant, everyone just thinks all that short wall out there, except that it's at a normal major league distance, so it's a little harder.
He was very good, to his credit. He was very good about going that way in Fenway.
Yes.
That was a part of his game that he really leaned into, and just outside fastballs, he had no problem popping those over the fence or hitting them off the monster. So to his credit, he was very good at that.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, so he hated everything in the first 3 months of the season, got traded, and then
Feeling was mutual.
And the Giants fell off a cliff, and I can't talk about him as a clubhouse person. I don't have any personal feelings about him at all, the way that you do, because of course you do. But I'm just looking at his stats going, this is what we thought he would do. So yeah, I don't know necessarily what to complain about. And yeah, again, that's an interesting question, looking at next year, but I'm kind of going, the consistency factor is actually there, even though it doesn't feel like it is.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You think he's having this really lousy season, but like you said, you look at the overall numbers and you're like, yep, those are fine. Yep. And probably going to be better than what he did last year, because he only played 138 games last year, and his stats are almost identical right now to the 130 in 134 games this year, almost identical to 138 games last year. He's probably going to finish with over 30 home runs. And so coming into the season, I had him ranked as the 6th third baseman. He's probably going to be right around there, top 5 going into next season for me. Just a really weird year, and we'll see how things change in San Francisco, but felt like it was worth discussing. And now for home plate, continuing to be clever, we're going to talk about a catcher at home plate. And I want to talk about this. We don't have to spend a ton of time on it, but I wanted to mention it because I think it's very interesting. Willson Contreras was recently suspended for 6 games for arguing balls and strikes and then throwing his bat in the direction of the umpire and hitting one of his own coaches, which is a big no-no. And I think he also threw gum on the field, or like a gum wrapper on the field, like it's like threw a gum wrapper, which is even funnier. I know you wanted to get to something about this, but the one thing I wanted to mention about this is, so he was suspended 6 games, which seems like a pretty big suspension, but I guess throwing your bat is a big deal. He's appealing it, and so he's not suspended right now. But what I wanted to mention is, especially thinking about head-to-head leagues, this suspension could happen at any moment. Like he could agree to a reduced suspension, or just, we see all the time, like sometimes teams just kind of like line up like when you're going to drop the appeal and just like when they want you to serve the suspension. So he could just you set your lineup on Monday, on Tuesday he drops the appeal, and then you just have a 0 at catcher for the rest of your week. So for me in Roto is one thing. I still would be nervous about like missing a week in Roto, but in head to head, it could end your season. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, like what to do with him in head to head. Like, do you drop him? Do you? I mean, most leagues don't really don't let you IR catchers. But then I know you also want to talk about his brother, so I'll toss it to you. Take it away, Kelly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always want to talk about his brother because I just want to talk about the two of them whenever you're thinking about literally anything related to draft season. But you also helped me remember it's not draft season, so let's hang with this for a second. It is hard if it's a weekly league. I am not starting him until this is done, but I'm also don't see myself dropping him unless I have to. No one likes to carry 2 catchers. I hate playing in 2 catcher league. I mean, like, we can go on about that forever. So the question is really more about like what else is out there. What is, because the catcher position for me is the one where you want to do no harm. Like, you just want a guy that's not going to kill you. And if the only thing that's out there on the wire is a player that is going to kill you, then I'll just leave Willson in and take the 0s and then just wait till he comes back, or hope that they reduce it to like a 4-game suspension or something so he's not out the whole week. So yeah, that's the trick for me. I'm like, what's out there? Because you may get nothing, you may get less than nothing, and I think I would just be really, really careful in a head-to-head. I might prefer the 0s. So
I'll tell you who's out there. Kyle Teal's out there. That's who you want. He was a catcher traded from the Red Sox to the White Sox in the Garrett Crochet trade. He was one of the big 4 prospects for the Red Sox when they had Teal, Roman Anthony, Campbell, and Marcelo Maher. He was the 4. They traded him, and now they have the big 3. But he was kind of like one of the crown jewels of the Garrett Crochet trade. Got up to kind of a slow start, but he's a very good hitting catcher, and he's heating up recently. So Kyle Teal is an option. All right. Let's move on to Waivers Central, where we talk about our favorite hitters and pitchers to pick up on the waiver wire this week. Let's kick it off with your favorite hitter.
This is my favorite hitter, like, in the way that maybe, this is my favorite old pair of socks.
I believe there was a question mark in the sheet before. You may have deleted it. I believe there was a question mark.
I did. Yeah, I put it up there because I always leave a question mark if I'm like, maybe I can find someone else. Yeah, so I'm going with Harrison Bader for right now. I don't like it. I don't even kind of like it, but he is doing pretty well. Yeah, he's batting 9th, but he's batting 9th in a good lineup. And I just think that there's some value to be had. He's rostered absolutely nowhere. So yeah, I feel like if I needed some outfield help, I would go ahead and stick him on my roster and just hope. But I mean, he's batting 274 in August, has 2 home runs. It's like he's just doing a Harrison Bader thing, but it's not exciting. It's just fill in if you need it.
Yeah, I'm not very excited about Harrison Bader, and one of the main reasons you mentioned is that he's batting at the bottom of that lineup, which always is hard for me to get around. He has moved up a little bit against lefties, but he also doesn't play every day. I mean, he's playing most days, But over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, over the last 15 games, he sat 3 times, which is not a ton, but he sat 3
Yeah.
times against righties. He has played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in a row. But yeah, I don't love the idea of, I'm already kind of like mailing it in by starting Harrison Bader. And then what if he sits once or twice a week? Like now I have like 80% of Harrison Bader, which is already like 60% of someone better. But so I'll talk about a much better player, Colton Cowser, who's my waiver hitter target of the week. But this is a little bit different than yours. I feel like this is a higher ceiling, lower floor pickup. He's really kind of just a power streamer right now. He is hitting in the middle, mostly in the middle of that lineup. He's hit like they drop him down to 6th against lefties, but he's hitting either cleanup or 5th against righties right now. He's also led off once recently. He's a prospect they really like. We've kind of waited for his breakout for a while. He's a first round pick from 2021. And we're finally seeing some glimpses of it. Although we saw, I guess, some glimpses last year. He hit 24 home runs in 153 games. So we saw some flashes. It seems like they're finally going to let him play every day, even against lefties, which is, something that Worm used to complain about all the time. But he strikes out a ton, 32.7 strikeout rate, 12 home runs in 66 games. He's been better recently if I pull up his splits. He's only batting 226 in August, but it does have 3 home runs. But I did pull up over the last... I looked at his game log. Let me pull that up. He's been heating up and filibuster. So he went over 4 yesterday, but before that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 game hitting streak with multiple hits in 2 of those games, and 3 of his home runs in those games. And so, showing some signs of life. But like I said, high ceiling, low floor pickup, and so. Tough to trust in head-to-head if unless you really need to like sell out for power. But also someone I would be interested in even picking him up and stashing and just kind of like see how this goes. Because if he really heats up, he could give you a lot of value down the stretch. But probably better options in head-to-head. But he's very intriguing because he's a former top prospect with a lot of power. Has my attention. Let's go over to your favorite pitcher.
I went back and forth on my favorite pitchers, and I still don't really know if I landed on the right one at all. Mostly just because I didn't really know a lot about him until I was looking at streaming options. But yeah, so I'm looking at Ian Seymour, who pitches for Tampa Bay. And I don't mean to laugh as much as I'm just like, it just seems like an odd baseball name to me. But anyway, he's played in 13 games. He's only started once, but that was his last one. So I believe they're sticking him in the rotation at this point. And he offers you some upside, I think. Let me see. I just want to pull this up. Yeah, I mean, he went 5 innings. He gave up 1 hit, one walk, and struck out 8 guys, and that was against Cleveland in Cleveland. So I think he's just kind of an intriguing. He's available absolutely everywhere. I mean, again, I really started this episode has made me really understand how you and I look at things when it comes to this like playoff time. And I'm just like, he's got some upside, but he also seems to like kind of control the game the way that like to help your ratios out. So Ian Seymour is my dude.
Yeah, I think he's really intriguing. And the first thing that jumped out to me when researching him, because I looked at him earlier this week too, he's an older prospect. He's 26 years old, 26 and 8 months, over 26 and a half. And this is like his debut. But when you look at his minor league numbers, it's really good. Like he kind of probably should have earned a promotion a long time ago. At least, I think there were some injuries in there, like he missed some time. But in 2024 across AA and AAA, 2.35 ERA, 162 strikeouts, and 145 in a third innings. His expected ERA was like slightly higher, but still like mid threes, like still really good. And so he's just kind of a name you haven't really heard of. But he's a former 2nd round pick in 2020. And yeah, he doesn't have like great like stuff metrics, but his overall numbers are pretty good. ERA looks good, WHIP looks good, more than a strikeout per inning. I feel like he's one of these kind of like unheralded prospects that like we might see a solid career from Ian Seymour despite getting a pretty late start. Almost 2027 is kind of a pretty late debut to make. So I think he's intriguing.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing that like that's the Tampa Bay situation, right? Like the things
Hmm.
they do with pitchers and how they work them around is very it's interesting. I think it's hard to tell kind of almost how they feel about someone because of how they work it. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just totally willing to give him a shot, see what he's got.
Yeah. For my favorite pitcher of the week, I cheated. I just chose all of them. I just wrote all of the pitchers, specifically Jonah Tong, Nolan McLean, Emmet Sheehan. You can include Ian Seymour in there. Um, in your leagues, if these young pitchers are available, just gobble them up because they're going to be better than someone on your roster. Like if you still have Yusei Kikuchi or Eric Lauer, Jose Quintana is probably a deeper name, but like there is a pitcher on the bottom of your staff who is not as good as one of these young pitchers. So just look for all of them. Go over the last 2 episodes we talked about every young pitcher, see if any of them are available in your league, and pick them up over your worst pitcher. And some of those other names, deeper league targets, but still, I put these like a tier below the names we just talked about. But Cam Schlittler, we talked about last week, still waiting for a good nickname for him. Parker Messick, Ryan Bergert, who's now with the Royals. He was with the Padres, but he's doing some intriguing things. Kyle Finnegan is kind of a speculative ad since the trade. He could be taking over as a closer soon. Was Will Vest is not really impressing. Abner Uribe, whichever McGill going to the IL, could be a closer. He seems like he's going to be the closer there. And then Bubba Chandler, we already mentioned, bulk reliever role, but showing some early things. Maybe he moves to the rotation. So he's kind of a stash if you have a roster spot, especially like in daily lineups where you can kind of move him in and out. Yeah, let's move on. Actually, first, struggling with lineup decisions? Our lineup assistant recommends optimal lineup suggestions to maximize your team's performance. Performance. I say that every week. I mess up saying performance. To maximize your team's performance each day or week. Just sync your league for tailored guidance based on your roster and league settings. Download the Fantasy Baseball My Playbook app or visit fantasypros.com/MLB to set your winning lineup today. And speaking of setting your lineups, let's set some pitching streamers. And as always, we use the Fantasy Pros streaming tool to see the best pitchers available for each day of the week. And from there, I will toss it over to you to talk about your favorite streamers for each day of the week. Take it away, Kelly.
All right. So streaming options, again, I'm looking at our streaming pitcher rankings and kind of seeing who fits our roster percentage / where they are in VBR. And so there are some days with a couple options that I sort of like, and there are some days with nothing. So starting off on Monday, I do like Ryan Nelson if he is available in your league. And according to our roster percentage, he's only at 20%. He gets to take on Texas at home. He's been pretty solid so far this year. He's not going to give you all the strikeouts that you want. But if you're looking for that, the riskier pick is Kyle Bradish. He's going to San Diego. So I don't love it, but I think that either one might be a worthwhile streamer. I would just go. Bradish is ranked higher by VBR. Nelson, I think, is the safer option.
Yeah, the Padres don't really strike out, which is kind of the tough part about the Bradish, because obviously with him you want
Right.
strikeouts. The Padres very famously do not strike out. Maybe not famously,
Right.
maybe you didn't know that, but they're not a
Yeah.
big strikeout team.
Yeah, so it's a kind of one of those deals where I'm like, I like Nelson better, but I also really like Kyle Bradish. Tuesday we talk. I mean, really, we're talking about like Emmet Sheehan, and he gets the Pirates. I will take that kind of all day, I believe.
Heck yeah.
And where is his roster percentage according to us is 9%.
It's low. That is being
So
as a caveat. That is being dragged down by ESPN. We always say that, but even being dragged down by ESPN, 9% is very low.
right, yeah. I mean, you can kind of figure that it's not too high if it's at
No
9
offense
there.
to ESPN. Yeah.
It's yeah, it's in Pittsburgh, um, but whatever, I'll take that all day long. On Wednesday, I saw Eury Perez was only listed as 37%, and I was like, I don't get it. But
Yep.
if he is available, he's at Washington. He's the highest ranked uh, guy by VBR, aside from Nestor Cortez, who I don't know. VBR seems to like Nestor Cortez a whole lot more than I like Nestor Cortez, so I'm not touching it. Um, on Thursday, I saw conflicting reports on who's starting for the Twins, but I was kind of okay with either one because they're
Either
facing
one.
the they're facing the White Sox at home. Neither it's Taj Bradley or it's Mick Abel. Neither one has been great. Neither one has been something that I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to make sure you get him in your lineup against the White Sox. I'm okay giving that a shot, and especially when they're at home. So Friday, the aforementioned Ian Seymour gets Cleveland at home, which is worse. It's in Tampa. But, if it's not a weekly league, you can just check and see what the home run forecast looks like for that. And if it's a 10, you just sit him. Saturday, Michael Wacha shows up all the time as this really high person to pick up and stream, and he gets Minnesota at home in Kansas City. So again, I'm just not believing in the Twins doing anything at this point. And his numbers are also not terrible. He doesn't strike a lot of guys out, but I mean, he's got a season 3.39 ERA and a 1.18 WHIP, and so I think you could do worse. And then on Sunday, Sunday's kind of ugly, I believe. I wrote down Luis Morales just because he gets the Angels
They do strike out a lot.
in Anaheim, and they strike out a ton. And so I feel like he would definitely be worth a stream there. I don't remember who his first matchup is against, but I don't see him as a 2-start that I'd want. So, yeah, so those are your streamers from my angle.
Yeah, the one name I would add, not the best matchups, but he does project to be a 2-star pitcher, is Parker Messick, young pitcher we've talked about. He gets the Red Sox and the Rays, so two not ideal matchups, but maybe in points leagues where you kind of line up points across 2 starts. So he's an intriguing name, and also just a name I want to roster rest of season just to see how it goes because he's been impressive. So that was the one name that stuck out to me. I don't know that anyone else really jumped out. I was trying to look while you were talking. Obviously, Nolan McLean is probably rostered everywhere by now, but if he's not, pick him up. It looks like Luis Morales is potentially a 2-start pitcher. He gets the Cardinals on Tuesday in St. Louis. So that's a very intriguing option too, especially with one of those starts coming against the Angels where you can rack up those strikeouts. That's a good one. Let's close things out with our 2-start pitcher competition. And we talked a little bit before the show, but 2 weeks ago, we picked pitchers who had pretty much identical weeks. I don't know that we've ever had pitchers, we've had a couple of times before where we had, we deemed it a tie. We had pitchers who had the exact same score in points leagues. And so I had Freddie Peralta, who scored 36.5 points in the points league that I've used to track this. You had Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who also scored 36.5 points in our points league. And I checked it against the other league that Worm and I are in that I will not talk about because I hate it now. But even that one was 29.3 points to 29.1 points. So I think we're just going to have to call that one a tie because they scored the exact same number of points. They got there in very different ways. Peralta went 1-0, 1 quality start, 11 innings pitched, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 7 walks, and 12 strikeouts. Yamamoto went 1-0, 2 quality starts, 13 innings pitched, 8 hits, 5 earned runs, 4 walks, 12 strikeouts. So same strikeouts. Peralta had more walks. Yamamoto had 5 runs versus 0. Both went 1-0. Yamamoto had an extra quality start and had 2 extra innings. So they got the same amount of points, but got there in very different ways. For this upcoming week, you had Kevin Gossman and I had Cam Schlittler. So we'll see how that goes. That week is in progress. And why don't you, and we'll toss out the standings here. On the graphic last week, production got it wrong. They had Worm's name on there still, and they gave Worm the extra point. I am in the lead, 8-7-2. So let's get that corrected this week. I am winning. I am beating Kelly and Worm in this contest, just so you know. So, who's your pick for this week? Who's going to be your loser this week?
Yeah, I looked at your pick, and I think that Worm had already used him. So, and again, I don't like doing this because they're both home games, but I'm going with Drew Rasmussen, who you traded to me in our Roto League, and that has worked out nicely for me. He gets Seattle and Cleveland at home. I believe Seattle likes to strike out, but Rasmussen's just been pretty solid. So he may not strike out a ton of guys, but he strikes out, I believe, like a pretty average number of guys. But he just doesn't give anything up right now. So I'm gonna go with Rasmussen.
Yeah, and I feel like a month ago we got a report that like his innings were going to be limited. He might be piggybacked with Joe Boyle, and it's just like not happening.
Or not.
He's just like still fined. So that's pretty annoying. The other thing I wanted to mention, you and I were talking a little bit before the show. In terms of 2-star pitchers, this is the worst week I've ever seen.
Mhm.
Like ever. Like since we started this contest, like last year or the year before, maybe, I don't know if it's year 2 or 3 for this contest. I've never seen options this bad. Like whether it's just like not great pitchers or just terrible matchups. I've never seen like fewer matchups to pick from. Like Hunter Green is a good name, but he has 2 tough matchups. And I think we both already used him. I used him week 1 because I was like, this guy's gonna get hurt. Let me use him immediately. Parker Messick is an option, but like again, as I talked about in the last segment, tough matchups and also like hard to trust him. But then it's like you got like Aaron Savali, Morton, Yusei Kikuchi, like Jacob Mizurowski is a good name, but like he's got the Phillies and the Pirates, but also like he might only go 4 innings, and so that kind of limits your points upside. Bailey Ober, no thank you. A lot of teams are moving to a 6-man rotation, so they have no two-star pitchers like the Mets and Dodgers. Max Fried, like Taijuan Walker. Are you trying to get down with Taijuan Walker against the Brewers and the Marlins? No. Burrows, Dylan Cease picked. Luis Castillo has been really bad, so I'm not trusting him. And it's more names like that, like Sonny Gray against the Athletics and Giants, if you want to get that. But like, it's bad week. Bad matchups. You know, I don't want to say bad pitchers. I don't want to be too negative. Like they're better pitchers than me, but like, you know, pitchers who are not having great seasons or
they are struggling pitchers. Yeah.
But it's a rough week. But I am going with Dylan Cease versus the Orioles at the Rockies in Colorado. So that could blow up in me. You know, you never know what you're going to get with Dylan Cease. That's part of the Dylan Cease experience. I'm hoping for a lot of strikeouts, and I'm hoping that he keeps the ball in the ballpark in Colorado. And I'm hoping that the Orioles have one of their bad Orioles days. You know, they have their good days and their bad days. I'm hoping we get a bad day from them. But yeah, that's where we're going. I'm currently leading 8-7-2, just to remind everyone that I'm winning. Anything else before we wrap up?
Just to remind everyone else that I've only gotten to pick like 4 people. So this competition isn't one that I'm like, I have a lot of stock in. I mean, I want to beat you obviously, but I'm not awake at night wondering how I can take it down. So
yeah, it's really me versus 2 people. So it's like I'm at an even bigger disadvantage.
No, because we steal from each other. So no, you're not. We can argue about that next week. Anyway, I wanted to just tell everyone to have a good, happy Labor Day, because that's this weekend, right?
Oh yeah. My hometown loves Labor Day. I don't live there anymore, but my hometown, New Jersey, it's the biggest day of the year. They shut down the town. There's a huge parade. The governor comes. They look forward to it for months. It's like the biggest day of the year. It's like a blue collar town. They love Labor Day. There's like the biggest weekend parties of the year. It's bigger than Memorial Day. Also, like in my hometown in the Northeast, they don't start school until the Tuesday after Labor Day. So it's like their final, like, you know, the summer's over party. So they love Labor Day. I kind of miss that I'm not there. I'm down here in Suckville. But, you know, all right. Let's wrap it up there. For Kelly Kirby, I am Mike Maher. This has been The Cycle, and thank you for stopping by.